Hello there everyone, welcome. So today I'll be reviewing the Shadow of Mordor campaign, or basically the faction as well, to play on the campaign. Let's get into very hard difficulty. By the way, just basically, you Lady Generals, you know what those is. The strength of the Palantir, this is mistaken, this is actually, it doesn't exist. So in previous faction overviews I haven't checked that out. I haven't talked about it, but the Palantir is not working, and the mod developers actually stated that they couldn't get it to work. So never consider it as a strength or weakness. So strong starting settlements, we'll talk about all of this. They do have Olagai, that's basically it. Okay, let's stop that because that will prompt problems later on. Okay, I can see that my camera is actually not providing me any view, so you're seeing me like Batman's Two-Face guy. A little bit better, perhaps. Let me see if I can light up some lights here while it's recording, while it's loading. A little bit better. Oh, sorry, it's because it's in the morning. All right. So I'm in the dark here. It's kind of soothing for the faction. So basically, what I wanted to talk about Mordor. Let me check my notes here and get a glimpse. So I'm not going to read this down. I'm sorry, guys. It's a lot. But the tribes. This is very important. So do note that they're talking about Harad, the Variags, and Eastlings of Rune. They are actually going to help. Do note this is important. Through the gate, the Easterlings will slowly send us battalions of their most heavily armed warriors, and the South Runs will send valuable mounted battalions along with some foot divisions to supplement our own hordes. The men of Khand have agreed to supply far more troops formations to the Dark Tower, but we must first construct a holding ground for them there. So do note that this can be seen almost immediately. So if you go to Mordor, actually see that you can, the Black Gate, actually can provide these units. Southern Lancers, so better cavalry. This basically means that you actually have cavalry with Mordor, which is amazing because Mordor lacks all cavalry. So, they have some Southern warbands. They're not bad, but then you get the local cavalry, which is a much better, it's much heavily armored pike units, so this is quite interesting. And you also have the Loka Ines Rim, so you have access to one of the best heavy cavalry that there is. So let's talk about this. Basically, let's make it short and simple. You need to hold 80 regions, including your own capital. This means that expansion is whatever you want. You can even betray other factions, it's okay. But 80 factions don't offset that. I mean, in order to get 80 factions by controlling 10 initially, you need to conquer 70, and that's probably taking care of most of mankind. You will probably get into... I mean, in terms of expansion, you'll probably get a lot of problems against your own enemies if they start against your own allies if they start getting too much of a foothold. The best thing that can happen to you is the fact that Rune or Harad start losing, or even Shadow of Mirkwood start losing, so that you get to conquer the territories that are nearer to you. You'll probably end up expanding all the way up to Bree with this faction if you want. But still, it's never-ending expansion. Just start. It's a very long victory. So you start with 2 enemies, by the way, which pretty much are the first ones that you try to destroy, Gondor and Dol Amroth, and you start with plenty of allies. Don't worry about allies, just make sure that you get more and more allies or more money from them and stuff. Now, do note one thing. Most of your places are not cities. You actually have one only city. This is the only city. Everything else is castles, which means in terms of production, and especially in terms of unit upkeep, you'll be able to field massive armies just by stationing them on the castles and then moving them when it's necessary. So it's never a question of when to build units. You pretty much will have the opportunity to build lots of them and still have no problems whatsoever. So The early war is kind of difficult. You don't start with specifically lots of good units. You have two Uruk halberds, which are really cool. They're pretty much your best unit, by the way. Then you have some orc archers, you have some orc maulers. Like, none of them have impressive stats, and they actually have pretty high upkeep. The biggest deal that you have here is, do note the soldier number, because you do have plenty of soldier numbers, which is also important. Now, you have an when I played, I actually managed to win over the Gondor's army. They do have, let me show you. They do have some interesting Gondor infantry and Gondor archers, but you can deal with those, at least for the time being. You will be able to do that. So I also wanted to add that you can rush, but you also have early picks that are possible, mainly these two settlements over here. I'm actually going to show you that. Yeah, you can go into Ostithil, you can go into Tier Thrade, I believe that's the name, and you can conquer it. They're mostly castles nearby. Do note that this is also a castle, so that's why you kind of need some large cities to offset. Do note that Gondor is also a city. So you'll have no problems with upkeep, and my cat is just... he likes Mordor, right? He likes Mordor. It's black and it has cat eyes. Alright, kitty, get away. No cuddling today. Daddy has work to do. Sorry about that, guys. So, let's go into the military. Now you have the pretty much great bodyguards. Let me just show you. On the Black Numenorians, you know, they're very cheap in terms of the upkeep, and they all have the special ability of the Terror. This is actually a Terror of the Witch King. You also have, you know, pretty much great units there, but still. Yep. Special ability, have the Terror of the Nazgul. It's pretty much the same thing. And all of these guys, I mean, I'm going to show you, all of these guys, they're really effective. I mean, you have Sauron, by the way, who is here. You cannot move him or do anything with him. This is just to explicitly have them there. I mean, you know. But this means that you, if anyone wants to kill you, they would have to kill this guy. And the only way to kill this guy is with the ring. So you're kind of invulnerable to that. It's very difficult to lose as Mordor, honestly. Now I have plenty of other generals, so don't worry about that. And most of them are the Nazgul. When not, you'll have the basic bodyguard. Let me just show you. There you go. You're gonna have the basic Uruk bodyguard, which is not bad. This is actually one of the worst, but they're still effective against armor. So bodyguard versus bodyguard, they'll probably win, you know, easily. So what did I want? What did I want? So you have plenty of units, but they're average. I mean, you have cheap archers and stuff, but let's show that to you on the building. I'm actually gonna have to go on the city. Hang on, I'm gonna select this so that I can check on barracks. There you go. So mostly you're gonna have, you know, you have a unit that is effective against armor. You have a unit that is skilled against mounts on the Morannon God. You have some orc hosts. Honestly, I wouldn't ever buy these guys. I mean, always go for the Uruks if you can. You know, they are the later units. Both the Uruks. They do not have effective against armor, which is a problem, but you do have the Uruk halberds, and they're relatively cheap. I mean, the good news is that the beginning units are as costly, pretty much, as the late game units, so you'll never notice a swift change on that. And you always have plenty of them available. I mean, maximum available 4, it's just amazing. You can let it grow pretty well. Let me just select finish that. Let's show that. Okay, in terms of archers, well, you have orc archers. They don't have pretty good accuracy, actually low accuracy, so I'll try to avoid getting too many orc archers, because the best unit that you can have is actually the Uruks ones. So they can use sharpened stakes. That will be valuable against Rohan, for instance. Missile attack 5 with average and 180. I mean, these guys are kind of like the basic archer unit in the beginning, but that will be your elite archers, kinda, because I'll explain. There's a little bit of a twist here. First of all, you don't have cavalry at all. The only cavalry that you'll get are from various, but let me just check the Mordor's specific ones. So you have mountain trolls. Basically, you can use these guys against anything. They're not that costly in terms of upkeep. I mean, the recruitment cost is costly, but these guys are kind of like the elite infantry. You also have great beasts, which are javelin based as well, and they have that skill against mounts. This is really good. I mean, they have bonuses against cavalry. Just station them on the flanks, and you will never fear a cavalry charge or a flank. Costly in upkeep, but they are well done. And then you have the Olagai. You know, very armored units, special attack and all. The upkeep, of course, is costly, but these guys simply, you know, you've seen them. You can conquer empires with just these guys. Don't send them against Mumakil, by the way, because I tried and it doesn't work. Okay, so after the troll cages, you do have an interesting idea here on the catapults, which is the troll catapult. In all honesty, I would never get ballistas or catapults, I would just get troll catapults here. They're costly in upkeep, but you'll get all the money's worth for that. They're effective against armor, skilled against mounts, you know, that's basically it. But that's basically because of the trolls themselves. Now, do note that these are different trolls. You can see by the defense that they're actually not the same as the other trolls. But they kind of cost the same, so why not get as many troll catapults as possible? That's for sure. Now, I wanted to talk because you do have some different units here and there. Let me show you. Okay, you have some orc bands, orc scouts, and orc raiders. These are not important units. I mean, scouts are terrible archers. You know, you can see, well, very low. Orc raiders are nothing. You know, this is basically, I'm in rush and I need some units. That's basically it. Also have the fighters, the shrines. The shrines is actually kind of cool because it does reduce the retraining, but it just produces experience. If it was an extra slot, for instance, that would be nice. You have the castle hall. That's great. You also have raiders, which is raider warbands and raider skirmishers. These are rather interesting units, but other than the fact that they are cheap, I wouldn't get them. And there you go. Now you have the Black Numenorians. So, let's talk about this. You have the Temple Elites. I mean, this is pretty much the best unit that you can get in melee. 1628. And they inspire nearby troops. The upkeep is not as high. And then you have the archers. Finally, an elite unit of archers for Mordor. 230 meters and exceptional. I mean, these guys are they actually have bonuses against wargs, in case you're gonna fight Isengard. These guys are about as good as Elven, you know, best archers. And 11, 8, 24. I mean, melee attack 11, missile attack 8, and total defense 24. These guys are surely worth your money, and they're as expensive as a troll unit, but having 2 or 3 units of these guys is always a good, important thing. Finally, you do have the canned outposts, so let me talk about those. You've seen these on the Rune and others. Basically, you have access to all the Variacs, but you have to build a camp for them. It's kind of neat. But what would I love to mention here? Pretty much just the Brotherhood of the Axe, which will be your main effective against armor unit. These are just incredible, and they are not as costly. You know, they're high upkeep, but I'll explain. This is very good for elite unit, basically. You know, so it's kind of worth that upkeep. There's some that are not. For instance, the Brotherhood of the Sword. I wouldn't consider them. I mean, they're good and stuff, but I pretty much prefer an effective against armor unit than else. Then you also have the Brotherhood of the Bow. This effective against armor and skill against mounted cavalry. They're really cool. I wish the range was better. And then you have pretty much the best cavalry that you can afford. Not the Lucianas, the Brotherhood of the Lance. Of course, these are mostly to the late game that you can get them. 1024 with a charge bonus of 12. It's just amazing. Other units, of course, you have, such as the Candish Hunters. Now, these are not to be upset. These are kind of like your best archers as well. They have pretty much the same stats. So if you can't get lots of your archers, just get these guys. You'll also have an interesting Marauder unit for skilled against mounts early access, and the Nomad Horseman. No, pretty much all of these units are kind of useful, but you'll see about them. It's you've seen those. I've shown those on the Rune playthrough, on the Rune faction overview, and it's also nice. Another good thing is that you start with the Diplomat and the Spy, so you don't have to actually produce them, which means that you can start immediate production of units, or just send some other guys. Now, what did I want to access? You have, speaking of which, you have lots of army compositions. I would, honestly, if I would play with Mordor, I would test lots of different army comps, because you can just use the standard, pikes and archers. You can have an army full of just infantry. You can have an army basically cavalry units with skirmishers, with some trolls, cheap infantry units and trolls, many catapults or many siege weapon based armies, anything that you can think of, because they actually have a very versatile roster. Now, financially, let's talk about it. So, if I'm not mistaken, it's here. Yeah, you have these mines on Irch Estolat, the income of mining 750. That's pretty much one of the first to get. And then you have, if I'm not mistaken, it's Sedagost. Yeah, there you go. The first building that you should go for is these mines. I mean, they will allow you a lot of money. You can't build Irch Estolat's mines immediately. You can just build some grain exchanges or slave pits or whatever, and then build up the money. In my playthroughs, you actually start with so many units and so many, free upkeep, that if you just build the free upkeep buildings, you will soon have no upkeep at all, and be able to field everything. By conquering, by the way, you will get access to forts, so that's pretty much the only way that you can actually get these guys free of upkeep, even though they're quite cheap, so it's not like you're in a rush to get the free upkeep from them. Okay, so the finances will get good after a couple of buildings, like I showed you. You will still get, most of these places actually have some sort of mine. You also can build, the Black Tower and Durthang and stuff. There's not a lot of places where you can actually build it, if I'm not mistaken. So, be mindful. You can build a very massive camp. You do have several smaller mines, but it's still interesting that you could get a lot of those. Yeah, like you have lots of small mines. It's okay. Of course, as soon as you conquer the Gondor's place, everything is set up, because my cat just did a boo-boo. Because as soon as you conquer Gondor's places, you should be well underway. So many generals with abilities. And you start with the Diplomat. Have I spoken about everything? Yes, I believe I have. Guys, remember the victory condition is 80 regions no matter where you expand. This also provides a very good replay value, because every single campaign with Mordor will feel a little bit different, especially if you go against different places. Like I can imagine going versus using lots of anti-cavalry and just driving through Rohan, or I can imagine using lots of trolls and just going north to deal with elves, and conquering the whole Mirkwood, or even going against the dwarves of Erebor. So, you're gonna get different playthroughs every time that you play Mordor, so go and do so. Thank you very much for watching this faction overview. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye bye.